had become bored with the original. On March 1999, Sony announced that the PlayStation 2 had begun development and would release a year later. Shortly after its announcement, Capcom and Arika announced the third console installment in the Street Fighter EX series that would be coming exclusively for the PlayStation 2 as one of the first launch titles. Street Fighter EX3 had all the gameplay features from EX2 Plus with a few variations and new modes. The original guard break move was replaced by the heart attack move, which, while similar in function, could be blocked. There were also other additions such as the critical parade and momentary combo. EX3 also introduced tag team battles, dramatic battles similar to the Alpha series, and even 4-player matches. The other new feature was the character edit mode. Here the player could continually upgrade a fighter named Ace with any of the special moves and combos from the other characters. The game was released on the same launch date of the PlayStation 2 in Japan on March 4th, 2000. Immediately, the game felt unimpressive in many ways. Street Fighter EX3 suffered from long load times and large portions of slowdown. Many other aspects made the entire game feel rushed. Other than the customizable character Ace, there were no new characters in Street Fighter EX3. Plus, most of them had to be unlocked and some EX veterans remained absent. After defeating the final boss, the player didn't receive a CG ending for the character, but instead a piece of text that tells of what happens in strangely cryptic sentences. The game's audio portion was acceptable but not impressive, featuring mostly music and sound effects that were carried over from prior installments. When the game was released in the US, Capcom updated the game with a fully optimized code to get rid of load times, visible slowdown, and frame rate drops. Capcom actually released the game a couple days before the US launch of the PlayStation 2 as well. The game was met with generally below average reviews when it came out. While some felt the game brought a lot of new elements that made EX3 a lot of fun to play, others saw it as the end of Street Fighter in the third dimension. Despite Capcom and Arika's efforts, Street Fighter EX3 remained inferior to other fighting games at the time both critically and commercially. Today, the Street Fighter EX series is widely regarded as part of the dark times in the Street Fighter franchise. Capcom continued striving to surpass other polygonal fighting games, but never saw the kind of success they had with their 2D fighting games. Many other fighting games were produced by Capcom that only garnered receptions that ranged from underrated to downright abysmal. However, one of them managed to stand out and remain one of the best polygonal fighting game series ever produced by Capcom. Rival Schools United by Fate was a polygonal fighting game released by Capcom in 1998. As the title would suggest, the premise of the game revolved around students from various academic and athletic backgrounds who would battle one another while investigating some recent disturbances in their city. The gameplay system had a 4-button control scheme but borrowed from many of the mechanics from all the current Street Fighter games. Players would choose a team of 2 characters and fight against another 2-character team. The actual fights were one-on-one, which led to tag battles and team attacks. When the game was later ported to the PlayStation, it came with 2 discs that had a surprisingly large amount of extras. Not only did it come with the original game in the standard modes like in most home versions of fighting games, but it also introduced a new animated intro and ending, added voiceover to the single-player story mode, and 2 new playable characters. Hoping to target the Street Fighter audience, Sakura was included as a playable character as well. Along with the main game, there was a second disc named the Evolution Disc. This disc featured several new mini-games and a character creation mode that played like a dating simulation game. When the game was localized, this mode was scrapped due to time constraints and the necessary localization. Another version was released exclusively in Japan that added more characters, mini-games, and a new school simulation mode that further developed the Rival Schools universe. In 2000, Rival Schools received a sequel in arcades that would come to be known as Project Justice Rival Schools 2. While Street Fighter Sakura was removed from the roster, the game brought in more characters each with a unique school-related background. It also made changes to the fighting system established in Rival Schools, such as allowing for 3-character teams. The game was ported to the Dreamcast and featured another character creation mode in the form of a board game, a mode that was once again taken out due to the localization required. Both games in the Rival School series were well received by critics and fans. Not only did it provide a solid fighting system, but players also loved the game's unique premise and tongue-in-cheek humor when it came to the overall combat. However, since the series failed to garner as wide of an audience as other fighting games, Capcom decided not to develop more games in the series. Project Justice would be the last installment in the Rival Schools series. With the rise of polygonal fighting games in the late 90s, Capcom was never able to reach the status of their competitors like they once did. While other companies continued to push their fighting games with newer installments even to this day, Capcom decided to put off developing 3D fighters as they had been generally viewed as failed offshoots. Because of this, many of Capcom's polygonal fighting games have never seen any release beyond their initial console ports. In fact, the original characters created from the EX series have never appeared in any of Capcom's other video games. Blair Dame and Alan Snyder appeared in the Arika-developed fighting layer, while Skullomania made an appearance in the music game Technic-Tix and H-Tex Fighter Maker. Arika has since moved away from Street Fighter and Capcom entirely to develop video games in other genres. To this day, the hope for either series to receive a new installment continues, but the chances of it becoming a reality remain slim. Instead of Capcom rising up to their former success, fans began to lose interest in Street Fighter and took a break from the series. With the future of Street Fighter appearing grim following the EX series, Capcom took another chance at revitalizing the series with what some fans never expected: the birth of a new generation. Next time, in part 5 of this Street Fighter Retrospective, Capcom takes a bold and risky step with the official third chapter of Street Fighter. The series finally grows up and moves on by introducing a brand new cast of characters. Despite its new approach to the Street Fighter formula, it remains one of the most debated entries in the Street Fighter series.
The third strike, y'all, is Street Fighter 3.